PvPvE, an idea that had been largely discussed being a part of the Destiny universe. Back in 2016 was the first time the idea had really started to gain a lot of traction thanks to another game in a similar genre, The Division. The Division had something called the Dark Zone that pitted players in an area filled with high-level NPC enemies with top-tier loot. The catch was, it allowed for other real players in the Dark Zone to turn on each other and fight over some of that good loot. At the time, many members of the Destiny community and the player base had gone over to The Division, and thanks to the popularity of the Dark Zone, it wasn't long before players started discussing a Dark Zone patrol space in Destiny. Honestly, at the time I thought the idea was pretty cool myself, but I never thought we'd see something like that. Deej from Bungie actually discussed a Destiny Dark Zone in an interview done by SkillUp, and in the interview he said that in Destiny, we want people to go out in the world and know that anytime you see another player, it means there's someone who can help you. That's Bungie's vision for Destiny, and I can understand it, but I think Bungie may have realized players wanted some PvPvE in Destiny. So 2 years later, Bungie answered with Gambit.
You're invading! Make a mess. That's one. 2 for 1. One more in the grave. 10 seconds left. You knocked the mooks right out of them. Nice. Woo!
Now I know there's a general feeling amongst the community that if they even hear the word Gambit, they immediately say,
"Oh shit, here we go again."
And for the most part, I understand that feeling. There's only so many times you can be killed over and over by linear fusions, Hammerhead, or most recently Xenophage. But on the other hand, Gambit has been one of my favorite additions to the franchise, and during its first few months of release, I played Gambit for hours every single night with my friends. So what was it that kept me addicted and returning to burn another boss, bank another moat, and jump through another invasion portal? Today, I thought I'd take a look at the rise and the fall of Gambit in Destiny 2. Now when Gambit was first announced, the excitement for a PvPvE mode finally coming to Destiny was pretty high. It always sounded so fitting inside of Destiny to have a competitive mode involving PvP and PvE, and after seeing the trailer for Gambit, it looked great. The premise of which team can kill a boss faster already had me interested, but with the twists of sending tough enemies to slow down the enemy team, and even sending over your best PvP player every so often to really stifle their progress, was what totally sold it for me. Needless to say, I was pretty excited. Before Forsaken launched, Bungie had a 24-hour preview of the mode that allowed everyone to try Gambit for ourselves. During this free trial, I fell in love. The intensity and competitive nature of the mode brought back feelings of Destiny 1 Trials of Osiris for me. Even though there was nothing on the line other than purely winning, I wanted to win, and my team and I played our asses off to make it happen. That's when you know you've really made a great competitive game mode, where people aren't looking to win a game because of loot, or because of a lighthouse trip, or a ranking system, but simply just because you want to win the game. Now things were not perfect, and immediately the cracks began to show with things like Sleeper Simulant running the invade meta. But even with the overpowered Sleeper meta, the free weekend really got me excited to dive into the full game mode. After the first week of Forsaken completing all the new content, missions, strikes, and raid, I immediately focused on Gambit. I was literally running Gambit every single night for hours with my friends. And yes, it's never been perfect, but during these early days of Gambit, it was extremely addictive and replayable. Now I was happy to play Gambit purely out of fun, but while I was playing I was always working towards something, like the quest for the Breakneck Auto Rifle, still one of my favorite guns in Destiny 2, praying for a chance at the meatball spawn so I could begin my quest for Malfeasance, and eventually, after getting the Malfeasance, going for the Dredgen title. Now I know it's one of the easier titles to get in the game, but it was still a ton of fun to go for. But even with all the fun I had, I know that Gambit has never been perfect, and even during my grind for Malfeasance, Breakneck, and Dredgen, it could be very, very frustrating. Solo play was almost out of the question entirely because of the constant matching against 4 stacks, and Sleeper and other linear fusions still ran the show. Some would even say that weapons like Sleeper and other linear fusions are what killed Gambit for them, something that I completely understand. Catch-up mechanics felt very unbalanced and felt too rewarding for the losing team, and over time the Blade Barrage and Chaos Reach burn strategies did get kind of old. Also, after getting Malfeasance, Breakneck, and Dredgen, there wasn't much reason to run Gambit beyond the weekly powerful. So, was it a combination of these things that led to the players' hatred for the game mode? Perhaps. Like I mentioned, for some people all it took was being killed by Sleeper one too many times and they never wanted to return to the mode. But even after the nerfs to the weapons like Sleeper and the changes to heavy ammo, the tweaks to the catch-up mechanics and the strength of things like Shards of Galanor being reduced, why did Gambit continue to maintain a poor reception from the community? I think even with these minor changes, there just wasn't enough of a shift in the gameplay. It became extremely monotonous, games felt predictable and repetitive, and for a majority of the community, dealing with the continued heavy ammo invader problems just wasn't worth it. Pretty quickly, the general consensus shifted from positive praise for a great and unique PvPvE mode to Gambit just sucks to play now. Bungie's answer to this was Season of the Drifter, a whole season seemingly focused on Gambit. Personally, I was pretty excited to see what they were going to do to spice up the Gambit game mode, as I previously enjoyed Gambit at one point. But understandably, people were not happy to see an entire season focused on Gambit. The stigma Gambit had at that point was, oh, you're playing Gambit? Bungie had better bring something really great or else players are going to skip this season. Introducing Gambit Prime. I gotta say that I think Gambit Prime had a lot of great ideas. Really diving into each player having a specific role was very cool, and each role getting to acquire their own unique armor set with set bonuses really sold Gambit Prime for me initially. As someone who primarily invades, being able to be even more deadly to the enemy team was very enticing. Gambit Prime also ramped up the difficulty of the enemies in the map, and the blockers were changed to be tougher as well. Gambit Prime would contain only one round rather than the 3 in regular Gambit, and the boss had invincibility shields after a damage phase. Personally, I'm not a fan of invincibility shields for any kind of boss, but I understand the reason for them in Gambit Prime. But the real problem I have with Gambit Prime is being forced to stand in one spot as a team to damage the boss. I thought we were getting away from that boring way to kill bosses. I love the King's Fall raid, but so many bosses were just stand in one spot and shoot. That became boring, and to see regular Gambit go from flying around, dropping supers, and clearing nearby adds while simultaneously defending against invaders and doing as much DPS as possible, to be changed to just standing in one spot and shooting for 30 seconds. Gambit Prime, to say the least, wasn't very popular with many players in the community, and despite the great additions of armor set bonuses, a more difficult and competitive Gambit, and the gameplay loop tied in with Reckoning, the negative stigma still continued to be attached to Gambit. Why was this? I believe it's because the same problems remained even with Gambit Prime. Heavy ammo with invaders was still too strong and beyond frustrating to play against. Catch-up mechanics still felt too strong and better teams were being penalized for summoning first. Solo players had an even tougher time trying to carry their team in Gambit Prime. And killing the boss by standing in one spot was just boring and very repetitive. So that's why I believe Gambit has been abandoned and is now hated by the community, because the core underlying issues have remained. And again, even though they had introduced some cool additions, the mode just hadn't received enough updates and the changes it needs. When Gambit was first released, I thought it would be the new competitive PvP mode that everybody flocked to for tournaments. And honestly, I still think it has potential to be the most fun competitive mode to watch if certain restrictions were in place on heavy ammo, and if a few tweaks from Bungie found their way into the game. Gambit in its first couple months had problems, but I was addicted to playing it. I hadn't had so much fun in a competitive game mode since Trials of Osiris and Destiny 1, or the early days of Overwatch. Gambit is one of the greatest additions to Destiny we've ever gotten, but I can't deny that the game mode has become one of the worst activities to play in the game because the core issues have never been addressed properly. And it's a shame because again, Gambit is and can be incredible, but in its current state, it will never be able to shake that stigma of being one of the most frustrating activities in Destiny 2. I hope that sometime in the future, Bungie looks to address the core issues because Gambit has potential to be part of my weekend ritual with my friends in Destiny 2 like it did during its first few months. But until then, Gambit will remain untouched by a large portion of the community.